Ryan, Jessica, Dominic, they were all training a good 3 months before they started shooting every day, 4 hours a day, 7 days a week.
What's up, guys? Derek, moreplates.com. Today we're going to be talking about Ryan Reynolds' body transformation for Blade Trinity and what I personally think he probably used to prepare for that role. So Ryan Reynolds is not necessarily known for having a, insane physique year-round or anything like that, but he certainly has gotten into good shape in the past for a number of roles. The most notable, of course, being Blade, in my opinion anyways. And there is some ambiguity around exactly how many pounds of muscle he gained, but I'm just going to go over some of the statements that were made in terms of quotations of him and other news articles. So one article in Muscle and Fitness said, Ryan Reynolds, superhero workout for a strong shredded physique. Back in his Van Wilder days, Ryan Reynolds lived like a frat boy. I was pretty unhealthy, admits. I didn't care what I ate or what I drank. Then came Blade Trinity and the comic actor got serious. After 3 months, 6-day-a-week workouts, and a 3,200 calorie daily diet, Reynolds gained 25 pounds of muscle. So we're talking like a third of a pound of lean tissue per day, essentially, which obviously, you're probably shaking your head right now. We all know that's fucking impossible. But anyways, going on to the next one, we have mensjournal.com. This was the 15 most inspiring Hollywood fitness transformations. Ryan Reynolds to play vampire hunting Hannibal King in Blade Trinity 2004. He also transformed his body for Deadpool and Deadpool 2. I think Blade Trinity is probably the more notable appearance, though, in terms of his physique. So what he ate, eating meals every 3 hours. Reynolds consumed up to 3,200 calories per day, ending his carb intake at 8 p.m. Reynolds' workouts clocked in at 3 hours, 6 days per week. He performed 500 to 1,000 sit-ups, followed by lifting in the rep range of 8 to 12. Supplemented with creatine and L-glutamine to support muscle growth. He also took CLA and a multivitamin. And it claims that he gained 25 pounds of muscle while cutting his body fat to 8%. So not only did he simultaneously gain 25 pounds of lean tissue in 3 months, but he got far leaner at the same time. So those are two articles basically saying the same thing, more or less. And then in this other article, popworkouts.com, it looks more like a bit of an amateur like WordPress blog. I don't know if this is a reputable site or not, but this is talking about Ryan Reynolds' diet for Green Lantern. So a different movie, but still kind of relevant to show kind of the delusion in terms of these interpretations of body composition. So he's supposedly quoted here. I don't know if this is actually a quote from him or not, or if the blog just made this up, but apparently Ryan Reynolds says, I attribute my results mostly to nutrition. Never do any of that carb-starved crap. I was completely floored by the 3 months of training with Bobby, and I carefully followed his nutrition plan. I gained 15 pounds of muscle while dropping to 3% body fat. I attribute most of my results to nutrition. So if you've ever seen what 3% body fat it looks like, it's like literally Andreas Munzer. Like, that's the only example I can think of off the top of my head. Even like guys like Helmut Schrebel and all those kind of like the most shredded guys in the world, I don't even think I've got that low. Like, I think Andreas Munzer is probably one of the only ones that has ever really gotten that low that I can think of off the top of my head anyways. But there's probably others. But I mean, 3% is like deathly lean. There's no way he was 3%. Probably was upwards of double that at, being conservative realistically. So looking at the filming dates for Blade Trinity, I'm just trying to look basically to assess kind of how drastic the results were, if this is achievable naturally or not. I look back at the filming dates to see what movie Ryan was in closest to the filming of Blade, so then I can get an assessment of his physique in that movie relative to Blade thereafter to see what kind of drastic difference there is and what the time frame is, and if it's actually, something that could be supported by natural hormones. And the closest thing you can find is the Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle movie, believe it or not. So the filming dates for that were mid-May 2003. And the filming dates for Blade Trinity was September 22nd, 2003 to January 22nd, 2004. And purportedly, Ryan started training around mid-June of 2003. So that means pretty much like right after Harold and Kumar, he started, you know, like really going hard in the gym, trying to prepare for his role in Blade. And the problem is using it as a reference point, it's not very indicative of anything. He's fully covered up in this movie. You can't really see what his physique looks like or anything. I guess you can get an idea looking at his face based on his body fat percentage to some extent, but nothing really indicative that's useful for us to reference. So with that being said, we have to go look at kind of just based on his natural physique in his previous movies and use that as our gauge of reference point. And it's a bit less ideal because ideally we would have some sort of footage that's really close to the filming date of Blade to have a better guideline if this is something that can be achievable in such a short time frame. But with that being said, going to the Blade Trinity training, I feel like this gives us more than enough insight to make a educated assumption about what actually took place here. So here he says they were training every single day for 4 hours a day, which is very important to note. Like a lot of people might just think, oh, this guy's like super committed, he's training super hard. That's definitely possible in that time frame. But listen further and we get a bit more insight.
More sleep, that's the key.
The trainer, before we started the film, wanted to pack on about 10 pounds on me and muscle up. You know, you got to be able to lift people over your head and throw them around and fight blood-sucking vampires.
Okay, so the goal was to gain 10 pounds of muscle and get as lean as possible, clearly. So these articles and, you know, like quotations, obviously that was not a quotation for this movie in particular, but, you know, there's been statements thrown around after this movie was released saying, you know, Ryan gained 25 pounds of muscle in a 3-month span. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and even, you know, base this off of a 10-pound lean gain in 3 months. Even judging with that, let's see, moving forward, I kind of want to give you a bit more insight, and then I'll give you my kind of speculation on if that's even possible.
Both Ryan and Jessica were beautiful physical specimens before they started training. But Ryan's at something like 3.8% body fat. Jessica's at like 8% or 6%, something insane.
Okay, so Ryan is not at 3.8% body fat, and Jessica Biel is certainly not at 8%. Like, that's just goes without saying if you have ever seen what an actual, you know, body composition looks like for a female at, you know, stage ready body composition for a bikini competitor or something. They're not even stepping on stage at 8%.
They're on like a whole different plane. And it shows in the movie. I mean, they're ripped.
We're on this very high intensive protein, complex carb diet.
It's all about the diet and the exercise, I really have discovered.
Getting up in the morning, having oatmeal and then a protein shake, and then eating 2 hours later. I mean, I'm having to eat every 2 hours.
Eating 3 big meals a day, not good. Your metabolism is slower. What you really would love to do in a perfect world is have 6 to 8 small meals a day.
Tub of tuna with vegetables, and then chicken breasts with lettuce, and then protein shake, and then protein bars, and it's like,
I'm eating drywall and wood chips, mostly.
So there's a lot of bro science riddled in that clip there, and you can kind of start to gather just by what these actors are saying is they're essentially following an extremely micronutrient deprived classic, you know, like bodybuilder cutting diet where, you know, you're making yourself deficient in micronutrients. You're probably eating, you know, chicken and rice, kind of like the bro foods that you would think are good for bodybuilding outcomes, but probably are going to actually hinder you, especially in endogenous androgen production. You're not going to have the proper prerequisites to maximize your function, to feel good, and just, you know, like spiking your metabolism by splitting your meals into 8 small meals a day. Like all this stuff is, you know, at the end of the day, the main takeaway here is, first of all, when you look at Ryan's physique in the movie, again, it's definitely not 3.8% body fat. Is probably closer to, I don't know, 8 would be generous in my opinion. He might be, you know, 9%, 10%, something like that. It's just a guesstimate. I would say, you know, 10 might be, you know, more realistic. But with that being said, does it look like he gained 25 pounds of muscle from his last, you know, notable showing or notable role where we can actually see what his physique looks like? No, definitely didn't gain 25 pounds of muscle. However, I think it's entirely possible that he gained the 10 pounds of muscle that was supposedly the goal to begin with. I'm not sure where this 25 pound statistic came from, but it certainly is not indicative of what actually happened. And the thing I wanted to outline is, let's just say hypothetically you were a complete newbie to training and you did start this intense protocol and you can gain, like on steroid like results even when you're natural when you first start training. That's entirely possible. For Ryan though, the thing that I took away from this that I thought was the most noteworthy statement is when they said they're training. Well, one of the statements was 6 days a week for 3 hours a day, and then another was 7 days a week for 4 hours a day.
Ryan, Jessica, Dominic, they were all training a good 3 months before they started shooting every day, 4 hours a day, 7 days a week.
So if you're training 7 days a week for 4 hours a day for 3 months straight, there's no possible way your body is going to recover naturally with that workload to support 10 pounds of muscle gain. I think there's a severe amount of overtraining occurring here following a poorly outlined micronutrient deficient diet model, which is obviously outdated. And obviously, this is a very old movie, so I don't really blame them. To be honest, this is probably, this is something I've done in the past too, following the traditional chicken and rice bro diet, that you think is what is going to get you the best results, when in reality, you're just, depriving your body of what you actually need to support proper physiologic functions for maximal muscle accrual. But again, the 4 hours a day for 7 days a week, can you recover from that naturally? No. Like, there's no way you could train with any level of intensity. Like, you'd have to literally be training like 10% effort to even be able to recover from that volume with any level of intensity whatsoever. It's just impossible. And even with anabolics, that would be overkill. Like a severe overkill. So the fact that Ryan was still able to build what appears to be 10 pounds of muscle while losing body fat simultaneously, with a literally training hard for 28 hours a week, following a poor diet model for 3 months, which is still a very, very short time frame and would be very tough to get those gains in even unnaturally within that time frame. All things considered, like 3 months you're packing on, depending on how much he actually gained, but even if it was 10 pounds, like, you're still gaining a significant amount of muscle on a daily basis there. That is, you would be hard pressed to gain that even on a first cycle as a newbie. That would be a very good genetic response, getting that kind of result in 3 months. So for him to gain anything substantial in such a short period of time, given the severe amount of overtraining and the diet model probably less relevant, although still relevant, of course, but that just the sheer volume there, it's just stupid overkill. Like, you would train yourself into the ground if you were natural doing this, and I do not believe he was natural. I believe he probably used something along the lines of an oral Anavar at minimum. Perhaps he also used testosterone, but just based on, my guesstimate, what his physique looks like, what I think he'd be willing to take, what is, ease of administration. I don't think he took anything more intense than just like an oral, dry oral like Anavar probably. And I think it's reflected in his physique, and I think it's probably safe to say that it's more likely than not that he did take something to prepare for this role. There's just no possible way you could support that kind of transformation naturally with that kind of training volume and that kind of short time preparation. Like 3 months is, even if everything was perfect and you were a newbie to training, if you could gain 10 pounds of lean muscle in 3 months, like, you would be a genetic phenom, in my opinion. So take from that what you will. That's what I think Ryan Reynolds took to prepare for Blade Trinity. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. If you have a different opinion, what you think, is possible in that time frame, what you think he did or didn't do. Interested to see what you guys think as well. And obviously comments help the algorithm, so it's appreciated when you guys do that as well. Also hit the subscribe button, hit that bell too to get notified when I post. If you don't hit the bell, you probably won't get notified when I post. So I highly recommend you press that. Click the mailing list button in the video description if you want to get put on the list of people who will get sent my articles as soon as they go live. Only the people who have access to the articles will get all the clinical data and trials that I reference in my more elaborate scientific, intensive videos where I detail elaborate mechanism of action, processes for, bodybuilding and pharmacology and all these things that I can't really delve into on YouTube with elaborate detail and a much more concise and professionally laid out format with proofread articles, subsections, table of contents, etc. If you want to get access to those, it's always more elaborate and well organized than my videos where I kind of just talk off the cuff. I highly recommend you subscribe to that mailing list to get sent those posts when they go live. Follow me on Instagram at moreplates_more dates, Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, etc. Talk to you guys soon.